Last spring, we said goodbye to a beloved sitcom that aired on Fox for 7 years called New Girl. Well, the creator and showrunner of that show, Elizabeth Meriwether, has teamed up with longtime actress Lake Bell to come out with a new show called Bless This Mess. It feels a lot like an updated version of Green Acres, and we'll be talking about it here today on TV Pilot Reviews.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Howdy, partners. I'm saying that on behalf of the show that we're covering today on TV Pilot Reviews, which is called Bless This Mess. If this is your first time tuning in to TV Pilot Reviews, this is a show where we review Hollywood's hottest brand new pilots. As I mentioned a couple times now, we're covering Bless This Mess, which just aired last night on ABC, that being Tuesday, April 16th. And guys, if this is your first time tuning into AfterBuzz TV, welcome. We are a TV coverage network, and we are here to bring you all of your TV needs. Typically, we have After Shows, which is a weekly recurring show covering television. On this show, we just review pilots, so this will be the first and last week we talk about Bless This Mess.
Yes.
But thank you for being here, guys. My name is Jeff Graham. If you want to catch me on Twitter, you can do that at Jeffrey C. Graham, and I'm joined by the always incomparable and just especially lately killing it, Linda Antwi.
Thank you.
You've been covering and really astutely analyzing The Act on Hulu.
Oh, it's so fantastic.
Week after week.
All of a sudden, I'm the expert.
Yeah,
People
it's
are,
great.
Are tweeting me and DMing me, asking me all these questions, and I actually have the answers. It's fantastic. The show is amazing.
She is an expert, and that's why we have you on the panel, Linda. And I appreciate you captaining this ship with me this week.
Thanks.
We may have a third rejoining the panel too. I'm not going to say it yet, but that's your little tease. We'll see if he comes back
Next week.
Speaking of teases, a bit about our show today, guys. We will be discussing a spoiler-free version of this show and a spoiler-filled version of this show. So for the first, third of the show, we'll talk about this show on a general level, who's behind it, what we thought of the pilot in a general sense. Then we will get into spoilers. If you guys have seen it, you can get our thoughts a little more specifically. As I mentioned, the show is called Bless This Mess. It's airing on ABC. It is co-created by Lake Bell and Elizabeth Meriwether. Before we talk about the show, Linda, do you have any experience with Lake Bell?
I do have actually a lot of experience with her.
Because she's done a lot. What's like your reference for her?
I think it's Drunk History.
Oh, yes.
And then she also does that children's hospital thing that she writes on. That I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I love sort of the community that she rolls with, sort of like the state. If you guys are comedy nerds, that would be like Michael Showalter, David Wayne, Michael Ian Black, some of these guys. Wet Hot American Summer would be sort of my reference for Lake Bell. So I like her because obviously she's like a beautiful, statuesque actress.
Yeah.
But she's kind of a dork and like
dork.
not
And
afraid
funny.
and very funny. And I think that Venn diagram of like self-deprecating comedy nerds and like stunningly beautiful. I don't want to sound like I'm limiting. I just think on paper, people might make assumptions about her that she always breaks in what she does.
Yeah.
This isn't her first time writing and producing and directing either, guys. But I'm going to save that, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I will throw to you when we get to there, because y'all know Linda's an encyclopedia. Lake Bell co-created this show with Elizabeth Meriwether, who's, of course, most well-known for New Girl.
Yes.
And you like New Girl,
I loved New Girl.
Yes.
Like season 1 all the way to the very end, and I was sad that it ended.
Yeah, I'll be excited to talk about whether or not you feel like this can fill the shoes of New Girl. Let's actually talk about the show, guys. It's called Bless This Mess. From a logline perspective, we're following a married couple played by Dax Shepard and Lake Bell.
Newly married like you.
Newly married like me, that's true. They're newlyweds just like me. It's been almost 8 months for me, which I was
like
just
a
saying.
Year.
About the same amount of time. And they decide to abandon their city slicker lifestyle as a therapist and a journalist and upend and relocate to the middle of Nebraska because Dax Shepard's character has inherited the house of his great aunt.
Yeah.
So the first episode sees us watching them leave their New York City life and start anew in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
That's Bless This Mess. Linda, what did you think of the pilot?
So, this is new for me because I feel like the pilot has potential. So, I originally was going to come in and say I hated it. But then I calmed down and I was like, okay, wait. I need to see where they go with this. And the reason why I need to see where they go with this is the cast is fantastic. And I get the premise and I think it could be super funny. But the pilot itself, it didn't wow me. It was just okay.
I agree with you. I think this is a decent pilot that could be to a great show.
Yes.
I think part of the hurdle of this show is it's a pretty conventional premise. Unfortunately, from a broad perspective, there's not that much interesting happening in this pilot. What I like, though, is I think from a micro perspective, there's a lot interesting happening in this pilot. It's a wonderful cast. I like all these performers. And luckily, it was funny.
Yeah.
I was laughing enough to make me want to tune into a second one. And here's what I'll say. New Girl doesn't have a very interesting premise, but it is a great show.
Right. So it's character driven. And the characters, especially here too, I liked that it was the writing, but it was also the physical comedy of it all, which you don't see a lot of nowadays, in my opinion. So I liked the combination of the two, and I loved that it was 22 minutes, just enough for me to like be entertained and then move on. So it has potential, I think.
I do too. It feels, and we'll give it an official rating later, but right now the pilot kind of feels like a B- to me. I mean, pilots are hard. Comedy pilots are hard. There just wasn't quite enough that wowed me from a specificity perspective where I was like, thought this was a really interesting pilot.
Yeah.
But again, performances were all great. The writing was funny. And a comedy doesn't necessarily have to have the freshest premise if the characters are the reason you're tuning in every week.
Absolutely agree with you. And this is a fun fact. So we do our pilot reviews every single week. And sometimes I may personally cheat and move ahead, but a lot of times I don't, and I know that you don't.
I try not. I have a couple times.
This Bless This Mess, for critics out there who like to watch more than one episode, they didn't allow it for this. So they could only base their review on the first pilot like we do every single week.
It's very strange because, you know, we do work in TV, guys, and often, as Linda mentioned, when we're covering these, not only do critics, but also us will receive, 4 to 5 episodes. Yeah. On premise, we only cover one for this after show.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, for this one, not only us, but the New York Times, the New Yorker, only got the chance to review one. Now, why do you think ABC did this?
I'm not sure, but it was creating a bit of a stir because what I was I was doing so much reading on this because we do it every week, so I don't think it's a big deal. But people were really confused. They're like, I don't know the premise and and this. What do I say? And they're talking about how streaming services release, like a gazillion episodes at once, or even if it's a regular show, the critics always have access to more than one episode. I kind of like that they did that.
It's really interesting.
It's forcing you to look at the pilot and forcing you to break it down like we do.
I love it.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to say, guys. After our spoiler section, I'm going to steal 5 minutes and we're going to have a quick discussion about the culture of pilots because we do get nerdy about format here on this show. So
perfect.
If you want to hear us nerd out about how we feel about ABC's decision, we'll get a little more in depth later in the show. Co-created by Elizabeth Meriwether and Lake Bell. So as a fan of New Girl, because Elizabeth Meriwether did create that show as well.
And wrote on it.
Does this pilot live up to the New Girl pilot?
It's completely different. I feel like this pilot, I know it sounds crazy and I'm not sure if I'll be able to back it up, but it seems a little bit more dated, if that makes sense. But I feel like they could I still feel like they're going to do something with this that's going to be phenomenal. Because I remember with the New Girl pilot, I was still entertained. I was still like, oh, who are these characters? I want to see more character-driven interaction on this show.
I totally agree.
Really need to, like the neighbor, he's great. And I think they need to dig into the backgrounds. And I hope that the ones that want to buy the house, I hope they are series regulars because the show will be great because the actors are fantastic and if they develop the relationships because the premise of the show is not new, obviously. The format is not new. It's everything that we've seen before. So how do you make it fresh? You make it fresh with, strong writing and amazing acting.
Yeah, it's interesting. For most pilots, or for at least network shows, typically the first stage before you move to a development green light, which would even be before anything shoots, is to pitch the logline in the room.
Yep.
And I'm surprised that studio executives would want to purchase a pilot based on this pitch because, again, even if the show is good, the premise is just so tired. It's crazy to think about. Picture this. two city slickers moved to the middle of nowhere.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh.
And all stereotypical all the way through.
Yeah, it's like, how many times have I seen this? But that's why it's like, it's truly the writing that's making this show work. I'm just surprised that this project even made it past development with such a conventional approach.
Well, get this. It originally was set up at Fox. It received an off-cycle pilot order before ABC picked it up. So this actual pilot, and why I say it seems a little bit dated, is because they shot the pilot a long time ago. And Fox just didn't do anything with it. And then ABC was like, oh, we'll do something with that.
Interesting. I bet Elizabeth had a first look with Fox because of New Girl and everything.
Yep.
But I have high hopes for this show because I did like the pilot overall. And I see the kernels of a great show. And we're going to get into some of the talent that's making that show great right now. We're going to go ahead and start with Lake Bell. If you guys are watching our podcast live, we actually have photos to accompany this. The reason I'm starting with Lake Bell is because she also co-created the show with Elizabeth Meriwether.
And directed this first episode.
And stars.
Wrote.
Yeah, so
directed, stars.
Co-wrote this pilot, directed this pilot, and stars in it.
Yep.
How do we feel about, let's talk about her performance. How do we feel about her in the pilot?
I think she was great in the pilot. I think that she had a lot of the one-liner zingers that kept the show rolling. And I don't know if that's because she was part of the creative process and directing it, but she stood out for sure. She
did her job. She did what she needed to. And I gotta say, she reminds me a bit of Jess, and I mean that as a compliment.
All the way.
Which I'm referring to New Girl. If you guys haven't seen New Girl, it's an interesting stereotype because it's not for a long time have they let really beautiful women be weird on TV.
You're right about
which is unfortunate because there's a lot of, it's hard in this business if you're not conventionally attractive to make it, but let's not pretend that it can't be difficult for really stunningly beautiful women to book certain things.
Right, because you're stereotyped into, oh, you're the pretty one.
The hot girl, the dumb girl.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard for women who look like Belle or Zooey Deschanel to get these kind of quirky, adorkable type of roles.
Yeah.
That's how they described Jess on New Girl. She was adorkable.
Yeah.
Or even like innocent, I think a lot of times women like this, when they're seen on screen, are assumed to be sexy, or I hate to say it, but like maybe like a whorish type of character. Right. And what I liked was she was a conventional, sweet type of I think she's playing against what we would expect her to based on the types of roles women like Lake Bell get cast as.
Absolutely agree with you.
So appreciate her performance.
And if you don't know her work, she is from It's Complicated, Drunk History, BoJack Horseman, remember we covered that, Home Again, New Girl, and How to Make It in America, which I loved and was short-lived, unfortunately.
And I have to quickly recommend, as a writer, she wrote a movie that premiered at Sundance in 2013 called In a World.
World.
Yeah, she wrote and directed that movie, and it's loosely based on her father, who was a voiceover actor. Ooh. So if you're kind of curious about the behind-the-scenes world of voiceovers, check out her movie In a World. All right, let's talk about Dax Shepard next. If you guys don't know Dax Shepard, he's probably on one hand very well known as being Kristen Bell's husband.
Yep.
But he's a great actor in his own right, so let's not just put him in that box. Lately, he's been very popular for his podcast. Have you listened to Armchair Expert before?
I haven't.
It's really good.
But
You'd
I keep
love
hearing about it.
You would. I think it would indulge your nerdy sensibilities, and I mean that in the highest compliment, Linda. Dax Shepard, you also. Well, you tell us, Linda.
So he plays Mike. Rio's husband, who is a writer, also a city slicker
on the
show. And we find out later his whole story, but so he moves to Nebraska with her. They're all excited. He's not very handy because he's completely the city guy. But he does a really good job as well, I think, in the pilot.
Yeah.
Where I think he gives enough room to be hilarious in her own right, and then supports that. That's how I took it. And if you don't know Dax, besides being a famous husband, a Hollywood husband, he's known for Hit and Run, Employee of the Month, The Ranch. Do you watch The Ranch? The Good Place, Ghosted. He was in the movie Chips, The Boss, Parenthood, and of course, Parks and Rec.
Yes. So always loved Dax Shepard. I will say, if you're listening to the show, you obviously like podcasts, and his podcast is great. he definitely has opinions.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to watch it
you'll
or listen
enjoy
to it. Yeah.
He is interviewing people, and I think he can get his guests to say things that other interviewers can't. So definitely worth checking out. Let's talk about Pam Grier.
The iconic Pam Grier.
I know, pretty fun to have her on this show.
Who plays Constance Terry. Mm-hmm. She is the town sheriff. She is also the town convenience store. Would you call it a convenience store? In the
hardware store,
hardware
maybe.
store,
Yeah.
like the all-encompassing
Yeah.
owner. And I really enjoyed her character on this. I have to say, like, I think she's iconic. And guys, if you don't know her, Jackie Brown, This Is Us, Bad Grandma, Smallville, The L Word, Law and Order, Justice League, Snowy Day, obviously Jackie Brown, In Living Color Days, and all of the shows that spun off of that, and Miami Vice. So she's been in the industry from like before we were born.
Yeah.
And has that legendary status. But I feel like in this, she's playing something different.
She totally is, and that's what I so appreciate. If you guys are watching me on screen, I'm on my phone because I'm pulling up the live chat to see if any of you guys are in there joining the conversation. I'm loving her in this as well, Linda, and it is nice to see her take a bit of a left turn from what we're used to.
Yes.
I think all of the actors are kind of doing this. I'm especially excited to talk about Ed Begley Jr. Unless you had anything else to say about Pam. But
I think she's doing a great job, and I'm hoping to see more of whatever it is that she's doing differently, encompassing this character.
I have a feeling
nice.
they're going to lean into that because I'm sure that's why she would take this kind of role is because it's giving her the chance to sort of flex her muscles a little bit.
Yeah, like she actually seemed vulnerable but strong at the same time. She always plays that same strong, over-the-top character, and that's not this, which I am enjoying about her.
Absolutely. All right, so we have to talk about Ed Begley Jr. because not only do I love him as an actor, I'm loving him on this pilot.
He's the standout.
He kind of stole the pilot.
Yep.
He was hilarious.
Yep.
And I will just quickly plug, he has been in our studio before. He came on our sister network Popcorn Talk and guested on Ileana Douglas's show, I Blame Dennis Hopper. Nicest guy. I got him a coffee. And he's just a sweetheart. And he gave a really pretty vulnerable interview on that channel. So check that out.
So he plays Rudy,
Yes.
the neighbor. And the uninvited neighbor, I guess. The aunt gave the house to her, what is it? Nephew.
I got you.
And he comes along with the house. And he's fantastic.
He's so great. I'm just looking at the chat now. We have Olivia and ER's grandpa. Thank you for being here, guys. If you have any questions you want to ask us, please feel free to do that.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know him or are not familiar with his work, you should be because he's in everything. He's one of those actors that I feel like are just constantly working. But Pineapple Express, Ghostbusters, Teachers, Arrested Development, Young Sheldon, The Cool Kids, Better Call Saul, which is one of my favorite characters he plays, Future Man, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. And even in this, he's playing something a little bit different, a little bit rawer and quirkier.
Yes. Such a weird character in the best way.
Yeah.
Loving him on the show.
Yeah.
I'm also loving seeing Lennon Parham. I know there's a couple other supporting characters that may come up here and there. And gosh, I can never remember his name, but David something, who plays Champ and Anchorman. And Todd Packer on The Office. I can never remember his name. That's all right. He's also in this pilot, and he's great. And I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about just based on the characters I mentioned. So we're going to move on to part 2 of this show. We do have one more, though.
Yeah. We want to mention Rio's mom.
Oh, yeah.
Susie Essman, because although you don't see her a lot in the pilot, she's hysterical in the pilot. I feel she was the second person for me that stole the pilot for funny.
Absolutely.
And she's known for also Curb Your Enthusiasm, Those Who Can't, Broad City, which makes total sense to me.
Yes, she plays Alana's mom on Broad City, too.
And so she's that mom.
Yeah.
Law and Order, The Goldbergs, and Blue Blood. And I loved her in this. Like, she is that overbearing, crazy talking, but that mom that you always go to.
Yes.
She's like going to tell you something crazy, or she's going to be a helicopter mom, but you still go because you love her.
If you need a neurotic Jewish mother on a half-hour comedy,
she's your
call
woman.
Susie Essman now.
Yes.
I'm going to get in trouble for that impression I just did right
I
now.
thought it was fantastic and
Thank you.
hilarious.
I have support from one.
Yes.
All right. Great cast. We're loving all these performances. I think both of us agree that's really the secret sauce to this show.
Absolutely.
And right now, I think we're at a fork. The show could be great. I could also see it sinking. It's at a sink or swim moment, and I don't know if we got quite enough in the pilot to decide.
That's it.
But if it's going to work, it's because of this cast.
That's right.
So I mentioned the chat, and I mentioned them because, guys, we love you. Those of you who are watching live, those of you who are listening in your car, those of you who are watching on YouTube maybe after the fact. We know that you guys are TV nerds just like us, or you wouldn't be tuned in. And we're passionate about TV, not just on this show, but on every show that we do at AfterBuzz TV.
Yes.
Linda spoke the praises of The Act, which I know you've been watching.
Yes. I love The Act. I do Whiskey Cavalier. This pilot reviews, and then I'm in Shondaland as well with Station 19.
Absolutely.
I'm all over it.
And Shonda's about to have a slew of things released that we've just been waiting on.
Netflix. I'm about it.
I can't wait.
Shonda, I love you.
Yes. And we love all TV, guys, just like you. So what we ask is that if you guys want more amazing TV coverage, content, hit that subscribe button right there, guys. I know people are wary about notifications, which I understand. I am too. But what's great is you can turn those notifications off because I know they can be really pesky. And when you do that, what happens is YouTube will actually cater your experience to be more driven toward the things that you love.
And they're actually getting really good
They're
at it.
getting really good at it,
Yeah.
scary good at it,
Yeah.
where I just get sucked into the YouTube vortex. For better or
All
for
day.
worse.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, guys, I was a little wary of subscribing myself, but I was saying it week after week, and I finally did, and I'm really glad that I did.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'm on it.
yeah.
And they send you stuff that's so relevant and almost like breaking news. It's
Yes,
great.
it's great. Not only subscribing, guys, but if you're a podcast listener, we really ask that you guys would hop on iTunes and give us those 5 stars. By doing that, you guys actually upvote our podcast to make it more searchable on iTunes, and you can connect with the nerds of TV that you want to connect with, that we want to
Yes.
connect with, and we will read your review. Excuse me, guys, on air if you do that. So please hop on iTunes, give us those 5 stars, and we will shout you out if you do.
I love it.
For now, guys, thank you as always for helping us become and continue to be the ESPN of TV talk. All right, guys, it's time for some spoilers. And I think we have a light component now, which I'm super... Ooh. So I'm a big fan of pyrotechnics. And if you guys are watching on the YouTube, we do have
Yeah.
lights changing in the
Yeah,
studio.
that
So
was fun.
shout out to our producer, Steve, for the added bells and whistles. Okay. This pilot was funny.
Yes.
I have some lines that in particular I loved.
Okay.
I want to start and see if they got you to laugh too. So at this point, I'm going to see audience too. Tell me if you agree with these lines. These were the moments for me that made me laugh the hardest. I don't go to therapy. I'm not a Jewish person.
Yes.
That was spoken by Ed Begley Jr.'s character. That made me laugh. There's a moment when Dax Shepard and Lake Bell's characters get stuck and stranded on their roof, which I thought was surprisingly well written for what it could have been, first of all. Dax Shepard's character asks, "Why don't you want to live here? I don't understand." And she says, "Oh, I don't know why, because maybe look at it." Which pretty funny. And then
And the P part was funny to me.
I have it written down exactly.
Okay, good.
It's really pretty sweet. They're having this connected marital moment that I want to ask you about, how it played for you. But she says, "You know, I'm scared up here, but the thing that scares me the most would be life without you. And also, I just want you to know that I peed."
Yeah. It's perfect.
It's really good.
It's perfect.
This was really sweet with them on the roof.
Oh, and can I add one more? Because
Please.
I was in tears.
Yes.
Is when the mom said, "Let me talk to the cow."
Let me talk to the cow. Put the cow on the phone.
phone.
Yeah, it's good. Love Susie Essman. To me, this pilot was good, and then it got pretty great when they were stranded on the roof.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel.
I feel like that was the moment that we connected with the couple. So before that, it was like a bunch of not random stuff, but stuff that was stereotypical of moving from a big city to a small town. So what was going to make it stand out? It was the relationship. And what I liked was I saw some layers. So you saw all the surface stuff. They're moving and they both have great jobs. They're from New York City, the city, if you think about it. And then they go to this small town. They don't know anything, but they haven't been open in their relationship. They think they have been, but we find out through the course of the episode that they've never had a fight. And she has like this weird, not baby talk, but like crazy talk that she does that he doesn't understand. That. And then we don't find out till they're stranded on the roof that, listen, we both want to be more open. So like the P moment was a open one. Him, how he leaves his job, all of that. And so I felt like that was another layer. Like, okay, we're being real about the house that we moved to, that we never saw first, never visited first. And we're being real about our relationship, which is important, I would think. And you can answer this. In that first year, like you could be dating for 5 years, but being married and taking that vow, I don't know, it just makes a difference.
It's true.
Right? So being able to be open and honest in that relationship, that's it. Because this is that we just talking about that. This is for life.
It's for life.
It's
And
for life.
yeah,
So you got to start there, and you have to start real and honest. I don't know. How did that play out for you as a newly married after all the bells and whistles of
the
honeymoon,
wedding and
and
the
the
reception.
honeymoon phase? Yeah,
It's been good. I'd say like in terms of like the roller coaster, I'd say like month 3, 4 was maybe when it got like realist for us. Where like I feel like we've been on a nice coast right now,
okay.
but that's life and that's marriage too.
Yeah.
I'm sure in 2 months I'll be telling you something different, but I love that moment too. I think what made me really excited was I love when I see on sitcoms a marriage where the couple can fight. But there's also a really deep sense, sort of an intangible sense of love and commitment and respect. A show that I think did this perfectly, I don't know if you watched it, but Friday Night Lights. That marriage is one of the most interesting on television because they will fight. But at the end of the day, there's this really like deep friendship that it's not only like a sexy, passionate couple, but there's like a sweetness and like a friendship that I think I saw in that final scene. And New Girl also did this really well.
really well.
So I wasn't surprised to see this kind of comedy with a sort of a sweet center.
Yeah.
Because you look at Nick and Jess,
Yeah.
or even Schmidt and Cece,
Yeah.
and there's always this kind of earnest friendship that's really grounding the romance.
That it's grounding the relationship. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I think if the show leans into that sweetness and continues to be funny, ABC could have a hit on their
Yep.
hands.
And then I also liked the relationship between Rudy and Constance. So that's Ed and Pam Grier.
Yes.
Because, they had that awkward, older, like, and I'm generalizing and I'm totally stereotyping, but I would think that after years and years and years of being married, and then all of a sudden you're newly single, and then you have to start putting yourself out there. One has a wife that has passed away, so is not sure. Or did she pass, or did she just leave him?
Maybe divorce.
Yeah, I think it was
Either
divorce.
way, not in the picture.
Not in the picture.
Yes.
And then we have the sheriff who, it was almost like she was struggling with her sex appeal. Like she had it, but she didn't know. And the two of them together was magic.
Yeah.
It was magic.
You can tell when the show is leaning into its new girl instincts, where whatever happens in the episode doesn't matter. It's what the characters say and do and how they interact.
Yep.
That's going to be the bread and butter of this show.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see what's next. Any other specific moments that you want to discuss from the pilot while we can talk spoilers?
No, I think I'm good.
I feel good
I think
too.
the surrounding characters were solid as well. Like I said earlier, I'd like to see more of them.
Definitely. We're going to take a quick diversion and have a nerdy conversation about the culture of TV criticism.
Yes,
fast.
let's do it.
Do you agree? A lot of critics are up in arms, as Linda mentioned, because ABC only released one episode. And a lot of people are saying, I liked the pilot, but how can I form an opinion based on one episode of television? Do you agree with that? Or do you think that we're given enough to have a sound judgment call?
Well, so here's the thing. I think that you should be able to have a sound judgment call on watching one episode because they've laid the foundation. Whatever they do from there is, yes, it may make or break a show, but for a pilot, what did they do in the pilot and how well did they do it should be able to stand in and of itself.
I just dropped my pen as if it were a microphone, like a mic drop, if that's what you're hearing on the podcast. Linda, I could not agree more. We're a pilot review show, and I hold to the philosophy that you get one episode.
Yeah.
The network gave you 22 minutes. You've got to do your job. And, at the end of the day, I know it can be hard to get those laughs in a comedy pilot, but you need to have one or two emotional beats or a reason to come back. And Bless This Mess did it. That roof scene was enough for me to want to see the next steps for Rio and the other guy.
And I gotta tell you, whoever is behind this marketing wise at ABC, I think that they did a good job, because what's happening with the critics, I bet you they're all gonna watch the next episode, because now they have nothing to base what they think they have anything to base it off. They don't, so they're gonna watch it and then they'll write more and say, oh, it was this or it was that.
Absolutely.
So, I think it's great.
Well, I agree. And let us know what you think in the comments. Do you guys think it's fair to judge a comedy based on its pilot? Or do you think, like a Netflix show, just get through season 1. All you need to do is give it 10 hours and then you'll love the show. That's what I have. Whenever I hear it, think of it like a long movie. I panic and I duck under a desk. That's the worst thing you can tell me. Movies are already too long. That's how I feel. All right. Out of 5, where does this thing land for you?
For a pilot, I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Sure. I'm going to give it a 3.7.
I think it's solid.
It's a solid pilot.
And I think it's solid.
Great.
I'll go with that.
And we totally forgot to do it, but are you going to pass or play on this show?
I'm going to play.
Me too.
Just to see where they go with that. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they do a really good job and it's another New Girl. And we have to do If You Like. So
yes.
If you like New Girl, Blackish, splitting up together, the Goldbergs. I even put in Abby's, because I if you saw our Abby's episode, I was not a fan, but the format and Single Parents, then you'll love the show.
Did you see, speaking of Abby's real quick, we got some comments on that show.
I didn't see them.
It was people went in. They agreed with us. Uh-huh. The only comment we got that was negative was that I was too nice on the show. Yeah. They said, shame on you, Jeff, for giving it any credit at all. This is hot garbage. So
I did see that.
Maybe I was...
Even Linda, I mean, she said it, but was not enough. It was not enough.
I couldn't tell. Do you think that commenter liked or didn't like the pilot of Abby's? I didn't know if I
couldn't tell at all.
Either. But we appreciate... I'm not saying that to shady. We actually love seeing you in the comments. So make sure you guys hop in there and let us know what you think. Yeah, absolutely. The only thing we have left to do before we wrap out is decide on what we think the chances are for this show and who we think ABC's target demo is.
Yeah. You do the target demo.
I'm guessing, honestly, this is a good example of how to try to capture a network. We talked about this with Whiskey Cavalier, which is doing better. It's finally picking up steam in the ratings. Yeah. And I know you're liking it, right?
I love it. It's on the fence right now, though, still.
I know.
So fingers crossed.
We're crossing our fingers because I know I really trust Linda's opinion and she's liking Whiskey Cavalier. A network show should be able to give you a sense of escapist family fun. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Bless This Mess could do that. It was a sweet show.
Okay.
I could watch it with my mom, maybe my grandma.
Okay.
So I'm feeling like that network crowd is who they're going for.
Or on your own, too.
Yeah,
right?
Or on your own.
Like a New Girl.
Absolutely.
I have a fun fact before we wrap. So this was unofficially inspired by The Money Pit from 1986, starring Tom Hanks and Shelby Long.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Shelley Long?
Shelley Long. Did
Perfect.
I say Shelby?
Well, all good. I thought maybe there was a Shelby Long I didn't know about.
No, it's Shelley Long.
Perfect.
I just couldn't read my own writing.
It's all good. It happens. I like to think that in some ways Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, Dax and Lake could be like an updated version of those two.
Ooh,
in a way.
Could be.
So we'll see. I've got high hopes for this show.
Fingers crossed. Tuesdays, 9:30.
Tuesdays, 9:30. Let us know what you think. If you guys have seen the pilot, please do comment down below, or you can always reach out and tweet at us. If you would like to do that, I have a Twitter, and you can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham.
Twitter. Guys, I'm all across social media. Linda is so girly. And if you're around, stay tuned because I'm going next door for the act.
Oh man, I feel like I have to watch it now.
It's so good. It's so good. And our viewers are amazing. Live chat is popping.
Love it. That's the best. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in every week. We'll see you next time here at 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.